Okay, so here's a little video. I haven't done this in a while this way, but that I wanted to do regarding prayer and your relationship with God. So I wanted to use two texts that have been popping up in mind a few times. And one of them is going to be from Daniel chapter 9. So what I'm going to do is just read a little bit of the narrative, and then we will, or I'll talk about a few things that stand out to me and see what we can apply. And ready? Here we go. Daniel chapter 9. We're actually going to start with some highlights. Let's see if I can maybe do it this way. So we see that Daniel, this is the first year of Darius, the Mede, and he's doing some Bible study in Daniel chapter 9, Daniel 9 verse 2. He's doing some Bible study, and then he's actually seeking to look for the Lord. So he actually goes into prayer, and this is in verse 3. So just to continue from right there, it says, "And I set my face unto the Lord to seek by prayer and supplications with fasting and sackcloth and ashes. And I prayed unto the Lord my God and made my confession and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him and to them that keep his commandments. We have sinned and have committed iniquity and have done wickedly and have rebelled, even by departing from thy precepts and from thy judgments. Neither have we hearkened unto the servants thy servants the prophets, which spake in thy name to our kings, our princes, our fathers, and to all the people of the land." So we have a few things that Daniel is pointing out. Number one is he determined himself to seek God. So it's just, a word that I could speak and share with you. Propose it in yourself to seek God today. And then he made confession, right? He's in the state of humbling himself. He's not trying to justify any actions. He's not trying to, make anything look better than what it is. He's being real. And then he confesses straight up. He says in verse 5, first he also recognizes the characteristic of God, that, he's great, he's dreadful, and he keeps his covenant and mercy to them that love him. And so we have that there. Daniel knows who he's talking with. And in verse 5, there's where he's recognizing his condition. They've sinned, they've done wickedly, and they haven't listened. Isn't that so much like us sometimes? We don't always listen very, very well, do we? And then we have a few more. We continue with verse 7. "O Lord, righteousness belongs unto thee, but unto us confusion of faces as at this day. To the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and to all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven them, because of their trespasses, that they have trespassed against thee. O Lord, to us belongeth confusion of face, to our kings, to our princes, to our fathers, because we have sinned against thee. To the Lord belong mercies and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him. Neither have we obeyed the voice of the Lord our God, to walk in his laws, which he set before us by his servants the prophets." So a few things that stood out here. He's again recognizing to who God is and his own position. Like, to us belongs confusion, but to thee or to God something else. So he's recognizing this contrast. He's not trying to justify his own actions. We have, moving on in verse 11, "Yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him." Verse 12, "And hath confirmed his words which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem." This is, I kind of like these next parts, writing. This got some more highlights here, but looks kind of like this. I don't know if it'll show. I'll find it yet. But yeah, so we're going to pick up on verse 13. As it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil is come upon us, yet made we not our prayer before the Lord our God, that we might turn from our iniquities and understand thy truth. Did you catch that? So despite these bad things occurring, people weren't turning to God or weren't praying. They weren't in prayer. And not just prayer like, God help us, like they weren't recognizing this condition they were in. Isn't this possible to happen to us in our day as well? Not just that, but to understand that God's truth. So we continue. Now we're in verse 14. Therefore the Lord hath therefore hath the Lord watched upon the evil, and brought it upon us. For the Lord our God is righteous in all his works which he doeth. For we obeyed not his voice. You guys catching a trend here? Not listening is a problem. Verse 11. And now, O Lord our God, thou hast brought thy people forth out of the land of Egypt with a mighty hand, and hast gotten thee renown as at this day. We have sinned, we have done wickedly. So you see, Daniel is making no attempt to justify anything. He's being real. He's recognizing his condition. And it would be wise for us to do the same thing, no? We are now in verse 16. O Lord, according to all thy righteousness, I beseech thee, let thine anger and thy fury be turned away from thy city Jerusalem, thy holy mountain, because for our sins and for the iniquities of our fathers, Jerusalem and thy people are become a reproach to all them that are about us. Now therefore, O our God, hear the prayer of thy servant and his supplications, and cause thy face to shine upon thy sanctuary that is desolate for the Lord's sake. And I wanted to pause here because sometimes that's the way it is. We are in a state of desolation, and we need God to hear our prayers. But notice Daniel says the prayer of thy servants. Are we servants of God, or are we servants of self? And that is key, I think, because Daniel wants God to listen to his prayers and his supplications, and he wants his face to shine upon them again. You know, there's a state of desolation, and the remedy is for God to again turn to his people. Verse 18. O my God, incline thine ear and hear. Open thine eyes and behold our desolation in the city which is called by thy name. For we do not present our supplications before thee for our righteousness, but for thy great mercies. And I like this verse too. I got a lot of highlights, because Daniel is inviting God, listen and see what is going on. Please visit me. Is this, a supplication. And he's basically saying, like, look, there's nothing worthy in me for you to listen, but rather it is for your mercy, for your sake, for your name's sake, or the people that are called by his name. Is basically recognizing God, and there's nothing in of ourselves that really merits any of God's favor, but because he is so kind, he does what he does. And I love this next part, verse 20. We'll stop this part here, but it says, and whilst I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God, for the holy mountain of my God, yea, whilst I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. So what's interesting is that, and there's other verses in the Bible, I believe in Isaiah, that while Daniel was speaking, even while he was speaking, he hadn't finished his prayer, and God had caused Gabriel to come down and to visit him and to answer his prayer, or to explain to him what was going on. You can read, the rest, Daniel 9, 10. There's a lot going on there. But what do I want to take from all this? One, recognize the condition we're in. Seek God. Determined to study the Bible as he was. Seek God, and just recognize, in a state of humbleness, recognize our place, our condition, what we're doing, and confess our sins. Recognize them and really plead with God. What do you say? Daniel chapter 9. Read it sometime. It's an amazing, awesome chapter.